Good morning, everyone. Khalilah here with the Social Changemakers Podcast. I am here in Prince George's County at Zion Church, which is my home church, in partnership with the State's Attorney's Office, Women Who Are Justice Involved Conference. Our nonprofit, the Denny House, is setting up. We have our resource table here, and a lot of our partners that we partner with in the community are here today. So we are just excited to be a part of this journey, to share in this opportunity with those who are women who are justice involved, to hear what it is they have to say, to talk about the trials and the triumphs, as well as the resources that are here in Prince George's County available to them. Quentin,
yes,
how are you?
I'm fine, and yourself?
I am good. Quentin with Metalworks. We're here with Quentin, Metalworks Behavioral Health Service. Tell them a little bit about the work that you do.
Awesome. So we offer a full suite of services. We also, like I said, like Ms. Denney just said, we partner with the Denny House as well. And we offer a suite of services to outpatient mental health, to partial hospitalization, in addition to our reentry navigation, in addition to our supportive employment program. We also offer online wellness groups to those who can't make it to the county.
Awesome. All right, well, tell people how they can get in touch with you.
Awesome. They can contact us at administration@metalworks.com, or they can contact us on our social media at _metalworks.
Awesome. All right, well, we'll see you inside.
Yes, ma'am.
That you have made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. It is an honor and a privilege to be able to open our eyes, to have the activity of our limbs, the articulation of our speech one more day. God, we recognize that you are ultimately the God of a second chance, a third chance, a fourth chance. We thank you for Jesus, who shed his blood on Calvary so that we might have the right to the tree of life. God, we thank you on this day, for you said you would supply all of our need according to your riches in glory by Christ Jesus. You have supplied great riches right here in this building through the talents and the generosity of so many who have gathered here, Father, for what you are concerned about, because whatever concerns us concerns you. So, Father, we commit this program into your hands. We ask, Lord, that you would meet every woman who is watching, every woman that is here in this building. Father, we pray that it would be edifying, God. We pray, Father, that because of what is shared here today, that fruit, Lord God, will be produced in many days, weeks, months, and years to come. We submit this time to you in Jesus' name, amen. You may have your seats.
Anybody that is willing to get into the good fight of helping these women and our men across our facilities, please, we want to hear from you. We need your support. We need your help. And with that being said, I'd like to bring on our next panel, panel 1B. So ladies, if you will please approach the stage. So we have another group of phenomenal women that are approaching.
Hello everyone, Khalilah Denney. Good evening everyone, my name is Dr. Donna Dilworth.
Good afternoon, my name is Dr. Antoinette Glenn.
Hi everyone, my name is Christine Gregory.
Hi everyone, my name is Sherry Garrett.
Hello, I'm Alfreda Robinson Dawkins.
All right, wonderful. Thank you all for joining us today. And first of all, I'd like to get your feedback on what did you all think of the video that you watched.
I'll go first. It touched my heart to hear that though the women are serving time and serving it in the facility in the way that they are, some of them still have hope. It may not sound like it, but the desire to be close to their families and be close to their children, and to have the opportunity to have careers when they come home and still have hope. That touched my heart.
And I echo that. I want to thank them for their vulnerability and taking advantage of the programs that are available to them behind the walls. So I was really trying to hold back tears while listening, so thank you.
For me, it was very real. It was very raw. It gives you a real idea, a real good feeling of what actually goes on, what the women go through, what their thought processes are, some of their fears. And a lot of times we look at women as to where they are today, but they gave us glimpses of where they've been. And sometimes if we understand the pathway that they've gone through, it helps us to better understand and actually plan a treatment plan for them in the future. So it's a very good picturesque of what you deal with in dealing with people who are in the criminal justice system.
Okay.
I'll go next. I found that video extremely powerful. I couldn't hold back tears. Probably because I sit in a little bit of a unique situation. I am the OBGYN for the Maryland Correctional Institute for Women. So each of those women are my patients. And although I take care of their health care, socio-emotional health, it all rolls into one. And it was very powerful. And I thank them so much for sharing those experiences with us. And I'm just overwhelmed by the video.
The video was very powerful, and I can resonate with so many different things that the women were talking about, because I'm like, that was me, that was me, that was me. And I'm just, my heart is full to know that they are taking advantage of the different programs within, so they can be prepared to come out into the workforce. But I just need them to realize that nowadays you do have a lot of support systems. So I'm very happy in the state of Maryland, there's a lot of support systems. I mean, they have all kinds of reentry programs and resources. So I'm happy that they took advantage of what's going on, and I want them to know that there is redemption in your life. It's gonna start over when you get out, but you're gonna tell your own story, no one else.
And for me, the willingness inside and outside, which touched my heart because of a family member was incarcerated, and want to let them know there is hope, hope in their self and hope when they get out.
Okay, ladies, thank you. And then also we have Delegate Tiffany Alston, who is with the Health and Government Operations Committee. Thank you so much for joining us. And everyone, if you would please welcome Delegate Alston as well to the panel. Delegate Alston, what did you think of the video that you saw?
Thank you. First of all, I was amazed to even have that access brought to people from behind the walls. My first job was working for the Commissioner of Corrections. So for years, we fought to get those stories out, and it was always very difficult. So regular people hearing what's going on is the only way we're going to be able to start changing what's happening to our women and our children. So I look forward to being on the Health and Government Operations Committee. I was actually making notes while it was happening, because we need to increase funding and find ways for the Department of Health to start providing more treatment to those women, and the reentry and the reunification process, because if we don't help them before they get out, we're going to have even more problems. And so it's great to hear it, it's great to see it, and I want to thank the state's attorney for doing this conference. I want to thank Leslie Johnson for being a bold and brave leader and leading this charge, because we need more of this. And I'm hoping that as we all hear these stories, we'll find ways to be impactful and ways to make sure that we're partnering with our government and let us know what resources are needed so we can do our part.
Okay, thank you. And now we're going to start with our first set of questions addressed to Ms. Alfreda Dawkins. So how did you, pass your time while incarcerated?
Okay, well, first, I think folks need to know I'm a mother of a son and my only child. We were co-defendants. So we were indicted together. My son got 45 years and I got 10 years. So my first process was trying to understand in my mind how I could do 10 years and not be crazy with it, looking at my son who was getting ready to do 45 years. So I was in 7 lots then, and I'd asked that we were kind of in the same place before prison so that we could kind of bond a little bit before our time started. So that was kind of my indoctrination. I had an education background. I was a teacher, 2 master's degrees. Nothing in my preparation in life had me thinking I was going to ever end up in prison. And because of a phone call I made, someone owed my son money and he was incarcerated. So I made a phone call to get the money for his bail, and they called me collecting a drug debt and conspiracy, which ended up giving me the 10 years. I never thought it was going to happen. I thought I'd go through the criminal justice system and certainly they'd see I wasn't guilty and I had no part of selling drugs or anything like that, but it did not work out like that. And I'm sure you know people who are federally indicted, 99.9% of us are actually in prison. So going to prison, I had to learn how to do time. And that was a challenge for me because I was an educator. So I talk like I talk now. But of course in prison, that was a little bit intimidating because people looked at me and said, oh, you think you're better than anybody else because I can pronounce words correctly. So it was a challenge for me just to kind of adjust and learn how to deal with it. But the way I spent my time was who I am as a person, trying to create opportunities. The young lady on the video who said I'm involved in every program, that's the kind of person that reentry people love to work with. Yeah. But when we look at the person who's struggling with drugs and wonder if I'll be able to get out there and stay clean, those are the ones that we don't want to have on our reports because we may not have successful outcomes. But we've got to learn to work with everyone. Yeah. I was that person who wanted to do everything. So I help people learn get their GEDs. I help people fill out their commissary slips who could not read so they wouldn't be taken advantage of by other people. I did Christmas programs. I did pastor appreciations. I did Kwanzaa. Every program you can think of, I was a part of because I wanted my time to pass quickly. So it helped me not only being creative and things to do, but also in how to get along with every different personality. And that has helped me today. Even out here in the free world, you've got to learn how to get along with people. So it's made me more of a people person. So I was involved in everything, and that's how I spent my time.
Thank you. And what were your expectations upon release?
Well, I certainly thought it wouldn't be difficult for me to get a job with 2 master's degrees, but that I would have great job interviews and I'd never get a call back. I'd call the folks that I'd had these great interviews with saying, are you still gonna hire me? And it was like people wouldn't say to me, my supervisor won't let me hire you because of your criminal background. So I began to, I began to take that in, internalize it. It made me disappear a little bit. It made me become more invisible. It made me kind of keep my head down. I just wanted to get a job so that I wouldn't have to have my parents supporting me after supporting me 10 years in prison. I wanted to stand on my own 2 feet, so I was willing to take any job. So my expectations were kind of dampened when I came home because what I thought would be an easy reentry, because of my background, was not that at all. And I had to learn to live with the identity of 28611-037, that now I'm not perceived as Alfreda Robinson, the educator with 2 degrees, but now I was perceived as Alfreda Robinson, a returning citizen or an ex-con. So I just learned how to just kind of deal with that, and I realized one day, instead of waiting for someone to do it for me, I had to do it for myself. So I created my own nonprofit, the National Women's Prison Project, and I became a person to help people like me, who could not get jobs, and to be able to help them to realize what their reality was, do the family reunification, accept who they are today, set their own dynamics, not let people design it for them, but to go forth and get what we are capable of doing, even after making a mistake. So that's what I did.
Thank you. And then the last question for now is, provide us with some tips on how to succeed after release.
Well, you got to believe in yourself. That's first of all. Prison changes your perception of who you really are. And you've got to come to grips with that. And I love that people begin to find the Lord, or, really begin to take that time and study. But you've got to know who you are. You've got to be able to set your goals. You've got to be able to find other alternatives to those closed doors, because there are going to be a lot of them. You've got to learn how to recognize what's important to you. And if it's family, I know people who are still trying to get an in with their family, because family's not forgiving them for the time that they've been away. You've got to learn how to forgive yourself. And then you've just got to learn how to just move forward. If people don't want to give you a job, create your own.
Thank you, Ms. Dawkins. And now we're going to go to Ms. Khalilah Denney. So Ms. Denney, tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, as she said, I am Khalilah Denney. I am the child of a returning citizen. My mom, my dad met in juvenile detention, so they both were justice involved. Every single male in my immediate family has been incarcerated. I grew up in foster care in Prince George's County due to the fact that my dad was incarcerated and my mom was strung out on his supply. And I grew up in Prince George's County. I am a mom of a previously incarcerated individual. So my son just finished his probation time and is finally getting himself rooted. And so I am the product of the justice system. I say, not necessarily the product, but my experiences, my life experiences going through foster care, being rebellious, a lot of the decisions I made because I was angry, because I didn't have the male role model I needed or the real mother figure I needed in my life. And, I'm just grateful that I chose to live a life that did not reflect my past, that I've been able to start my own nonprofit that is a prominent nonprofit here in Prince George's County, which is the Denny House. We get to serve returning citizens and transitional age youth and provide opportunities to young people where there might not have been one. Give them access to information and expose them to careers that they wouldn't typically consider. And I'm blessed that I'm on the stage with these beautiful women. Most of them we partner with in one way or another. And I'm just, grateful to be here.
Thank you. And
I must say, this is my home church too. I can't leave without that. I love Zion. If you don't have a home church, this is the place.
That was a very good plug. Ms. Denney, what was the turning point for you? Because you really gave a very full scope, full spectrum in terms of your journey. You started a nonprofit. You're in the community helping others. But what was that moment in your life where the light bulb turned on and you said to yourself, I have to change. I have to do something different?
Well, the first one was the birth of my first son. He came, and 3 years in, I was still a little angry and upset and rebellious. But there was a moment that my life was threatened. And I just, prayed to God that if he was able to save me from this domestic situation, I would go back to my son and I would serve him. And that's when I was able to really give my life to Christ. I still struggled. I still had, some years of rebellious. And then I found my husband. And just the path, the way things changed was when I married him. We had kids. My son took a liking to him. And then he also decided that he wanted to live his life, and he went and did some things he shouldn't have and ended up incarcerated. And while he was in, he would, we would talk almost every night, and he would share with me how there were so many people there that didn't have the opportunity to speak to their mom, that didn't have the opportunity to, read a note or a letter from their parents, or didn't have anyone to go home to. And that just broke my heart. So when he came home, we were there for him, but it also made me realize that I had access to a stage and access to resources that would allow me to help returning citizens in a way that is impactful and is needed. So that's what made us start our transitional housing program. His journey really, really impacted that decision.
What a wonderful story. Thank you, Ms. Denney. And now we'll go to Ms. Christine Gregory. So give us a little bit of background on your story.
Thank you. So I'm Christine Gregory. I'm a licensed clinical professional counselor and co-founder of MetaWorks Behavioral Health. We have a department that focuses on reentry, where we provide a host of behavioral health services, including employment and substance use disorder treatment.
Okay, and what inspired you to create MetaWorks?
I'm gonna take it back to childhood. So growing up, I'd say I was a part of a vulnerable population, just being raised by a single mother who was just trying to figure life out while providing for us. And I often felt like I really did not have a person to talk to about what I was going through as a young girl. And so I knew I wanted to go into the mental health field. Also, I have some family members who suffer with some mental health challenges, and I didn't see them getting the help that they needed while I was growing up. So I knew I wanted to go into mental health, and I knew I wanted to focus specifically on children and families. Because what I realized in working with the children, that if you don't reach the parents in the home and the extended families, you're not making as much of an impact as you could on the long-term health of the entire family. So I founded what was United Counseling and Support Services. I hope I don't go on too long. A few months later, I met my husband, Clay Gregory, and we founded MetaWorks Behavioral Health. We joined our visions together. Clay comes from a long line of ministers, and so together we birthed MetaWorks Behavioral Health. Pretty early on in our programming, we connected with the Bridge Center at Adams House, met Dr. Ron Garrett, and if you know, you know, Dr. Garrett is a juggernaut in the community, and he let us know about the challenges that we're facing in the reentry space, and he's now our Director of Reentry Services with MetaWorks. I could go on, but that's just a little snippet of why we founded Behavioral Health. Metalworks Behavioral Health, and together with Dr. Garrett, we've been able to create this reentry division that has made a great impact in the community. So, yeah.
Thank you. And as a mental health expert, can you share with us some coping mechanisms for those who are currently incarcerated to combat feelings of sadness or loneliness?
Yes, ma'am. And so at Metalworks, we believe that each person is an expert in their own lives. And that said, just from being a licensed therapist and having worked with a lot of people who have been incarcerated and are coming home, I'm going to echo what the ladies talked about earlier. What these ladies have talked about here is get involved with as much programming as possible. Try to make yourself better in as many ways as possible. Take advantage of the educational programs, the social programs, meditate, exercise, journal. And I say all of this knowing that it's easier said than done. But at Metalworks, we believe that everyone has resilience inside of them. So you're going to have to tap into that. And I know it's not something that's going to happen right away. You are going to go through the stages of grief, we believe, with leaving the life that you once had and coming into reality with where you are now. So I'm giving these pointers knowing that it's going to be a process to even get there, to be able to take advantage of some of these things. But journaling, meditation, exercise, of course, taking advantage of any therapeutic treatment that's available. Trying to stay connected with family as much as possible. We had a former client who did 10 years who was able to connect with his daughter every day at 4 o'clock to help her with homework. And she is actually closer to her father, who was behind the wall, than she is her mother, who was out. So there are many ways, I think, that people can utilize the time as best as possible to combat the loneliness. Get connected with like-minded people in there. So help to create a nonprofit if you see someone doing something that you may be interested in and you don't know how, you may not be as dynamic as this lady here and actually starting something, but try to get on with somebody like that who's like-minded. So yeah, that's my answer.
Thank you, Ms. Gregory.
Could I just interject a little bit there? When I came home, I went to healthcare for the homeless because I was really dealing with some depression and just trying to feel my way back into the community. And when I told them about my depression, they offered me medication. And I didn't want medication. I wanted to learn how to deal with what I was going through with my mind, or some strategies to work with other than medication. So as a medical person, how do you deal with telling a medical professional that you don't want medication, that you want to learn how to deal with life on life's terms?
Great question. As I said earlier, we believe you're the expert in your life, so you know what's going to work best for you. So I think just be vocal, honest, and transparent. And every medical professional is not for everybody. So you have to find that person that's going to listen to you. I don't know you better than you. So that would be my recommendation. Get aligned with people that you can be vulnerable with, that listen to your needs and what you need. And that's in every aspect of healthcare.
Thank you. Great question and great follow-up. Now we'd like to go to Ms. Sherry Garrett. Ms. Garrett, please tell us a little bit of your story.
That's a long one. Where to begin? With my husband being incarcerated for 20 years, where my children, where he was, in and out of the house, doing drugs, hanging out with other people that did drugs, and then got, caught up with someone that he shouldn't have been, but they robbed a store. So he got the same time as that person. So that put a damper in our life and our lifestyle, because now it was 2 incomes, now it ended up being 1 income. And then I had to, if it wasn't me playing sports that I played basketball, track, and volleyball, it taught me about life, because you're gonna have your ups and downs. It taught me to lose. It taught me to win. and I don't lose, so I like to win. With that said, with my two young boys, at that time they was 8 and 7, didn't know where their father was, didn't know how to tell them where their father was, so I had to sit down and talk with them, got them to go and see him. It took me a minute to deal with the situation because I had to look at self. And once I forgave myself, then I was able to forgive him for leaving me with 2 kids that I'm learning how to be a parent. And so being, bitter, being angry, but I had to learn to forgive. So just because someone is behind bars, you are incarcerated outside, dealing with the same time. So how do you deal with that? You deal with that just through prayer and fasting. That's what got me through the process.
Thank you for sharing with us, your challenges and some of the solutions that you found. So it sounds like spirituality is something that is very close to you, that helped you in this process. When it comes to your children, or when it came to your children, how did you break the news to them, and what was their response?
When I told them all they wanted was their father, didn't know. So what I had to do is bring other men around them, their uncles, their grandparents, and we all sat around and talk about that your dad was going to be gone for a minute. And with them not being young, not really understanding the process, but I like to say they do, because kids knows everything. They were willing to take in, and they were willing to deal with the process, but I know that we got some counseling for them, but at the time they were in so much sports that they didn't really have the access to, deal with the problems that they're going through. But through that process, I kept them active. I kept them in church, whatever sports that they would like to get in, from music to basketball, football. They found their gift. And the sports what kept them from getting in trouble, kept them focused on what they needed to do at the time that they needed to process what they was going through. I know my youngest son was angry. That's why he played football, and he will tackle anybody. But my oldest son, he was kind of quiet and silent, and how he got through his process was through music.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Garrett. And now we'll go to Dr. Antoinette Glenn. Tell us your story.
I was born and raised in Waterbury, Connecticut. My parents were married up until the age of 5. My dad was abusive to my mother. By the time I was 10, I was molested by a family member. I went off to college. I graduated from Virginia State University in 1991. I then married my father, actually my husband, that was like my father in 1992, had my son in 1992, was FBI, DEA, ATF, knocked down the doors in 93. In 1995, I went to trial. I was found guilty in a federal court of law in 1996. I was sentenced to 97 months, which is 8 years, 1 month, in a federal facility. So I did time, and I was shipped off to Alderson, West Virginia. I'm from Connecticut, so they sent me to Alderson so I wouldn't be near my family. And then when I got closer to release, I was able to transfer back closer to home, which was Danbury State Facility. And after being out for about 10 months, under a year, because I told myself while I was in prison, I had my plan ready, what I was going to do, and I did it. So within a year, I moved to Maryland, Prince George's County, and one of my line sisters worked for the Department of Education, so I went with her to the Board of Education. And of course, I'm an ex-felon, so I'm not thinking that I was already told that I could never work in the educational system. I said, okay, that's not what God said. So I went with her, and I got hired. I got out of prison 24 years ago. 23 years ago, I was hired, Prince George's County Public School System. I am now assistant principal at Academy in District Heights. In 2007, I got my master's degree from Coppin State University. In 2019, I got my doctorate degree from the College of William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia. In 2021, I wrote my book, Found Guilty, my 26-year journey to redemption. And that year I was inducted into what is called Connecticut Hall of Change, which is an organization in Connecticut that memorializes those people that are actually doing positive things in your community. So, yes, I am here, I'm in the system, I'm working with economically disadvantaged students because that's my purpose, that was my calling, and that is my assignment.
So a lot of really great, phenomenal work, just like all of the amazing women that we have here on our panel as well. Now, you are a parent, correct?
Yes.
And you have a son.
Yes.
So how did you deal with parenting while you were inside, and how did your son respond to you being away?
When I went to prison, my son was 2. When I came home, he was 7 going on 8. So I would see him on a regular basis before I was sentenced. When I first went in, I was in Valhalla, Westchester County Jail in New York, and we lived in Connecticut. So I would see him on a weekly basis. And then as he got older and I was shipped off to Rhode Island, that was a holding facility because the feds don't allow you to go into the Bureau of Prisons until you've been sentenced. So I would talk to him on a regular basis. We would do homework every week. I would write him. I would send him pictures. I would get some of the ladies in prison. They were very gifted. So I had somebody draw a picture of me. I sent that to him. And then I would talk to him on a regular basis and I would see him. So I was blessed to have my mother and my stepfather to raise my son. So I was very engaged in every aspect of his life.
Thank you, Dr. Glenn. And now we'll go to Dr. Dilworth. Tell us a little bit of your story.
Sure. So I'm an OBGYN by profession, but I'm a public servant. I've lived a life of service. I grew up in a family that service was not an option. And so although I do medicine, what I do, especially what I do now, is really, for me, is considered a service. And so I think I started serving at MCIW right before the pandemic. Before that, I was always in the streets serving, whether it was with my sorority, with my church. And then this opportunity came along, and I thought about it. And I was at a point in my life that I was ready to wrap up being a private professional. And, I prayed on it, and it did come to me, and I said, this is more than just healthcare. This is healthcare in a completely different environment that I've ever worked in. And I think from day one, when I came through the gates of MCIW, I have never one day regretted what I do. I feel more empowered. I feel more impactful at MCIW than I ever have in my entire life in my profession. So that's what I do for the women of MCIW.
And Dr. Dilworth, we thank you for your service. Thank you. So I do understand you started a doula program.
Well, it wasn't just me, but there is a doula program at MCIW. I was a little bit instrumental in the finalization of it, but for those who aren't familiar with what a doula is they're usually women, but they are women who are supporters of women, often while they're pregnant, when they're going through their postpartum period, through their prenatal care. They are not actually usually providers of the services, so they're not like a midwife. I consider them almost like a woman's BFF. They help with services with the patient as well as the family. So we actually have partnered with the Baltimore Doula Project, and we have women who come in and provide these services for the pregnant women at MCIW, and they come in on a weekly basis. They do training, they do classes. The ladies feel very connected with the doulas. They ask them some very interesting questions because they usually make it back to me. They bring worksheets and they teach them just a lot of different life skills, coping skills, some that are surrounding their pregnancy, but some are just about being a mother and being a woman and what it means to be a mother behind bars. And they also help to keep the women connected with their families. And if they could, they would go with them for their deliveries. They can't, but they would love to do that.
And you mentioned that some of these questions from the women on the inside come back to you. So do you find yourself or your team, a part of this program, having to address their emotional needs at the same time?
Yes. So again, I'm an OBGYN, so I tell the ladies very jokingly, neck to knees. That's all I deal with. But they ask me anything and everything all the time. Once you build a rapport and there's a comfort level that they have with you, they're very open. And I think that's why I was so moved by that video, just to hear them. I hear that all the time. And that has nothing to do with OBGYN. But there's a comfort level that comes along with knowing that you are respected, that you are heard, that you are still treated as a person. And that is very important to me, and to make sure that they know that I care about them. I may not be able to take care of all the things that they ask of me, and some really are not in my lane, but I'm going to hear you, and I'm going to try to help you or try to get you to the right person who can provide what you need. Women's needs are, as I think the state's attorney said, we have periods, we have pregnancy, we have ladies who are in their 60s, 70s, 80s. So we have ladies who are going through menopause. There are so many different needs. Healthcare doesn't change because you're in prison. Yeah. Healthcare needs of women are the same everywhere. And we still have to recognize that. And we have to make sure that those things get addressed and they get treated timely and properly. And there's so many ladies who have been there who don't know what is coming next in terms of the changes that are happening in their life. So whether it's education, it's not always just medication, sometimes it's resources. Those are the things that we try to provide for them.
Thank you, Dr. Dilworth. And last but not least, Delegate Alston. So please tell us a little bit of your story.
Thank you. So I was born in Washington, D.C. in the projects to a teenage mom and a dad who was in and out of jail pretty much, he was in jail pretty much my whole life. He spent 27 years in jail, and I remember as a kid, the first time going to visit him, I said, well, I'm going to become a cop to break you out of jail. And kid logic, right? And my dad told me, well, no, I don't need a cop, I need a lawyer. I need a really good lawyer. And so he said, and you can't break people out of jail. So I said, oh, okay. He said, well, I'm gonna become a lawyer so that I can help you. And from that time, that's what drove me. So I spent my whole life working to become a lawyer, got a scholarship at a young age. My mom dealt with lots of dependency issues, raising my brother and myself and my sister. And, we didn't know that it was anything different. So went to college, graduated, went to law school, finished, became a lawyer. started running my own, well, actually took a year off after law school to raise my kid, and worked for the Department of Corrections when I finally got my first job for Commissioner Sizer as his chief of staff. And I remember my first day going behind the wall, I started having a panic attack because the space was so confined and you could almost touch from one wall to the other if you put your arms out. And one of the women, she was the deputy at the time, she pulled me out and said, "You're gonna put us all in danger. You need to get it together before we go back in there." And she talked to me about, being compassionate and understanding what the people there were going through. And then she said, "And make sure you don't break the law so you don't have to live here." And I said, "Oh, okay." So I spent about a year and a half there, and then decided to branch out, open my own law firm. And then at some point decided to run for public office, and life was good. I got married, I had a kid, it was the whole American dream. And then did some things that my party didn't like, and all of a sudden I was indicted. I was under indictment for using campaign funds, which were actually monies I loaned to myself, to pay for my wedding. And so I was in court. Had to get lawyers, couldn't really represent myself because emotionally it's probably a bad idea. And then that case, it was going to end. All the evidence got suppressed. The case was turned to crap. It wasn't going to go anywhere. And the prosecutor said, "Well, you need to plea. And if you don't plea, we're going to indict you again." And I said, "Wow." And so I had some choice words, and about a week later, I got indicted again. And so went through that whole process, ended up negotiating an agreement. They wanted me to resign. That was the request the whole time. I refused to resign. And then they said, "Well, you're removed from office by operation of law based on this plea agreement." And so at that point, even though I never went to prison, I became a justice affected woman as well, because my reputation was sullied. I lost my law license, not as a result of that, but I ended up losing my law license. And so everything that I had always worked for was gone within a matter of a year. And I was depressed. I was so depressed. And there were days when I just couldn't get out of bed. Because and I didn't know it till recently, I was listening to how in this area, it's your job, it's your occupation, that's really your community. And so overnight, I lost all of it. I lost the community as an elected official, I lost the community as a lawyer, and all I had was my family, and I really wasn't that good at that because I was a career person. And so I was like, wow, how do you deal with this? And so I spent the better part of 10 years trying to figure it out. I kept busy. I would often start my own business because who's going to hire a disbarred, twice indicted person? No one. And it's not like I had a whole bunch of other skills where I could go do things. And honestly, my pride prevented me from going and just getting a regular job. And so I started my own business. I started multiple businesses. I sold Mary Kay. I did travel. It was like all of the multi-level marketing, direct sales. I would try it because honestly, it was therapy. The people were always so happy and so excited and just so nice. And they didn't care about your background. And so I did that, and then decided I'm going to try and get my law license back. So I applied for my law license. The reviewing agency, the bar, they said, yes, we agree, she should get her license back. And the court said no. So there goes the roller coaster ride with the emotions again. And so I was talking to a friend one day, she said, you need to run for office again. And you need to win. And she said, that's the only way they're ever gonna stop messing with you. You can start to rebuild your name. So I did. And, my sorority sister, my good friend, the state's attorney, she was supportive. And I know it was a difficult thing for her to support someone in my circumstance, but she did. And fortunately, I was successful. And then I was able to get the license back, get back into office. So, it has a happy ending. But what I will tell you is, as a human, every day you still struggle with those emotions. It doesn't go away. Every day you continue to struggle with who you are and whose you are. And I know who I am, I know whose I am. I know what I can do and what kind of woman I am, but that doesn't stop the mental health. And so if you're a provider, what I would say to you is listen to people. Listen to them genuinely and help them. And if you are an affected person, thank you. If you're an affected individual, just know that there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes, it is.
You are not defined by your worst moments.
Nope.
And God called you for such a time as this. Everything that you've been through so you can help somebody else.
Yeah.
Those experiences are there to make you grow so that you can help another person get through it. And so recently, I heard that, and I don't even know this woman except for seeing her on TV, but attorney Marilyn Mosby is going through. She's now a justice-affected woman herself after being a prosecutor and defending the law. It can happen to anybody, but for the grace of God, there go I. Yeah. So it can happen to anybody. So don't ever think you're better than or above, because it could be you. And so to the extent that happens, you gotta use those circumstances to build yourself back up. Find out what it is that God wants you to do and use it to help somebody. And so the reason I brought up Miss Mosby is because with everything she's going through, I had a kindred spirit and identified with her and reached out to say, you know what, do you need a lawyer? I just got my license back. I've never done this before. But if you need help, I'm helping. And so just knowing that it wasn't all in vain, it hurts. It hurts like hell some days. Probably shouldn't say that in here, but it does. So you know, it's like time to wrap up. The light's red. So what I will say is that I know that God put me through that for a reason, and I also know that God never gives us more than we can bear. So whatever your circumstance or situation is right now, just know that God has your back. Find that inner peace, find your spirituality, whatever it is. You gotta connect with something higher than yourself to get through what you're going through. And then once you're through it, help someone else. Seek them out and offer your services, because we can't do this on our own. And so, and I know, I tell her this all the time, and I'm gonna close with this. When I was going through, I was out at the gas station one day looking a whole hot mess. You know how you run out the door hoping you're not gonna run into anybody you see, you know? And you always run into somebody, and I ran into Miss Johnson, and she was looking fabulous. Not a hair out of place. Always. And I said, oh my God, you look amazing. I was so excited to see her after everything that happened. She was home. And I said, you look great. And I just couldn't even get it together to get out the house to get the gas. And she said, don't you ever let them see you look like you feel.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you. And I keep that with me every day.
Well, beautiful. And as you know, us colored folk, we have a tendency to be long-winded, all of us. So we all went overtime. All of us did. And with that being said, I just want to say thank you all for your courageousness, for your love, for your outpouring, for being so vulnerable and transparent. Please, let's give these phenomenal women a big round of applause. And I think the one thing that I can say to sum this all up is, don't complain about it, be about it, right? Put some skin in the game, because this is a collective effort at all levels to help impacted persons, and just as important, the next generation. The next generation. So I thank you all for your time, and I'm going to pass the mic to Mrs. Johnson.
We do financial literacy education, and that's something that my privilege of being able to like work with Metro Work for students to provide that
To their clients.
space
Okay.
to their clients.
Yeah.
So at least they can begin to think about it. A lot of times, most of the financial education you see talk about what they tell you is, I don't even have a job. How do I begin to think? But then we bring that space where before you get the job, if you're able to understand it, so you already set a framework, you're able to like just have a template when you eventually do get the job. So that's the kind of space we bring. So I'd like to be able to do that.
Well, I don't have my phone on me, but if you want to take my information, you can. Or actually, I would just say, Felicia, she has everything. So if you want her to just connect us via email, okay, I'll ask her to connect us via email. Okay. Okay. Awesome. Mr. Gregory, how are you?
Man, you jerked me out of. You did phenomenal up there.
Thank you.
That was really powerful. Thank you for sharing.
We
that
still
story.
gotta connect. I need to have a conversation with you.
Yes, ma'am.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So yeah, we need
Okay.
you and I need. You and Christine need to have a conversation.
Okay, we're out of the office Wednesday. We return the following Thursday.
That's good. That's
so
good. That'll give me
that
some
Thursday,
time.
Friday, or any day thereafter, and let me know if you want us to come to you, you want to come to us, or you want to grab some lunch.
Yeah,
it's all open.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. We having fun here. Networking. Yes. I'm taking the camera. See this? This young man. He dressed for success.
Are you even looking to make sure I'm
I can see. I think I'm dressed for success. Yeah. Look like you ready. You ready? All right. You want to talk to some people? Huh? You want to introduce yourself to some folks? Who you want to meet?
I feel like I've met a good amount of people.
You met a good amount of people today?
My name is Place in February.
And I'm Yvonne January. I'm sorry.
Yvonne January. I was saying, who is Yvonne? I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to be talking behind the camera. My bad.
You're Miss Denny.
Yes, I am. How are you?
I'm good. I was talking to your representative over there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so.
Mr. Mike Gray?
Yeah, he got my information.
Oh, yeah? So what do you do?
I'm with the state's attorney's office.
Oh, okay. Awesome. In what capacity?
I was chief of the juvenile unit for over 12 years. Now I work with the charging unit for the jail at night.
Oh.
When the prisoners come in, then they're entitled to a hearing.
Okay.
A public defender's there usually, so of course there has to be a state's attorney. So that's what I do.
okay.
But I do it from home. I've been doing that for a
okay.
while. So.
Well, it's nice to meet you in
It's
person.
good to meet you as well. And I told him I want him to meet that lady who's our re-entry person.
Okay.
And so she's edited over it, but she'll probably get to talk to him anyway because I told him I would let her know. I didn't know she was here.
Oh,
okay.
All right.
Thank you
Well,
so
you
much for the
enjoyed
work
your
you do.
lunch.
I
Thank
know,
you.
my snack.
Thank you. Yeah, right. I'm so sorry. I didn't recognize you behind the mask. Hello.
Your story was powerful.
Thank you.
I mean, I knew you were a great woman, but I didn't know the whole story.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Doing great work. Thank you.
What you do in the reentry space? Yes. Somewhat as the Damascus House, we provide transitional housing. Our transitional housing program is a 3-phase program for individuals who are coming home directly from incarceration. It's a bed-to-bed transition. We partner with organizations like Damascus House, Metalworks, Solid Foundations, Life After Release, to provide those wraparound services our clients need. If you are seeking workforce development, we provide that service to you as well. In-house, we provide landscape management, heavy equipment operation as certifications, as well as food managers training. So if you are seeking any of those services, our program will provide that to you. But we also partner with people like Employ Prince George's and provide you with access to opportunity for employment and training through them. One of our most programs that is near and dear to us is our diversion program. We have volunteers coming from the state's attorney's office and the Back on Track program. When I tell you there are some phenomenal young people coming through that program, they are doing a great job when it comes to selection of those who deserve that second and third chance. And we're grateful for that partnership, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
So mentoring and tutoring is another part of the work that we do. But as it relates specifically to our returning citizens, again, the housing, the wraparound services, our program is a 1-year program, and our housing program manager is here today, Michael Gray. He's doing a phenomenal job. He's out in the back. And we've graduated 4 individuals in the program, and he was the first, and we hired him on as our housing program manager. And he's been doing a great job up until this point. Still doing a phenomenal job, Mike. So, yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that.
Excellent.
Thank you.
That's great, a place to leave it.